Welcome back to the channel. This is the Daily Trade Recap, and today we are going to review a trade that I took on ticker symbol INTC, Intel Corporation. So let's just get right to it. First of all, let's look at the daily chart. And once again, we see here that it's been on an uptrend. And recently, it had tried to break out, overbought situation, dropped down, tried to break out once again multiple times around this $51, $50 range and got rejected. And so it has dropped back to a support level. And you can see that it's held this support area of about $45. And that's where it is at the present moment on the daily chart. All right, so I drew this trend line connecting this top to this top, and I drew that trend line that was previously on the uptrend, and obviously these multiple support areas. If you want to see the support and resistance levels video and how we came about drawing these lines, you can check out my other video. But once again, today I'm just going to review a trade that I took on this ticker. And so let's go to today's chart in the 5-minute time frame. And as we had noted on the prior day, all the moving averages were somewhat all laying together, coming together, which is uh, a possible sign of it either breaking out or breaking down. And we have this trend line on the bigger time frame that it was very close to. So you have like resistance support levels 200, the 5 and the 20. That's what I have here. And then you have this trend line. And so in the pre-market, it tried to gap up, but you see that it actually created a channel before the open, a downward range. And right at the open, we see that broke it broke support, or whatever support that it had, at least in the pre-market and even in the previous days intraday. So we had that break and flush. And so there was no news, at least when I was trading it this morning, trying to figure out why is it flushing so much, other than maybe it was some sort of a bear trap. But just going with the plan, the first 5 minute candle, and even initially at the pre-market, it was already dropping from $46 all the way down to 46.13 to 45.91, and then it continued aggressively in the first 5 minute candle from 45.92 all the way down to $45. And so understanding these support levels, and also what I had here was the previous day's low. I was at least had an idea of where support could possibly be. And because I knew that this was a pretty strong support area, I was anticipating for a bounce. And that's why I took this first trade here at this level. And actually, when I saw it aggressively bounce, I was able to enter and take this scalp trade up. So that's why it's important for us to really get an idea where these support levels are, and we take a chance. It doesn't mean that necessarily it's going to hold, but it's a better probability of it holding if it was a strong reaction in the past. That's why you still have to have a stop loss understanding. For instance, this was the 5 minute candle. So you would want to get it below that 5 minute candle. And at the same time, you know that if it gets back above this support level, that it's not a resistance level. It's now holding again a support that was a previous support. And so the fact that it broke strongly back into the range above the support, had a retest, but it obviously moved back up and regained the 5 and moved to the top of this 5 minute range to retest that 200 level and that trend line at the top. It did attempt to break out. It did break out and hold retest, but it couldn't break out any higher because there's another resistance here, which was the previous day's high, and it was just unable to break through the previous day's high, and so it got rejected, broke through the 200, got back into this downward channel, and it was below that channel and went way back to where it was in the beginning of the day. So I took a chance and took a little small trade at the end of the session um, here and took a little bit out. It's not a very um, I would say not a very like good trade, but it was enough to just, get a quick scalp out. I had to make sure and wanted to make sure that I sold all my positions before the close of the market. But because again, I had the idea that this was a previous strong support level, maybe a hold above it, and it had somewhat of like a little bounce, dead cat bounce maybe from all this downtrend, right? And retest the previous day's low. So again, understanding where your support and your resistance levels are gives you a better uh, basis and thesis on and confidence on your trades. Obviously, again, we're not here to forecast and predict. It's just probabilities. And so we looked back and know that this was a strong area of support. And so when it got to it and you saw a reaction, you could take a chance, put your stops appropriately, and take a reasonably good trade. So that's was the trade on Intel, and just how you go about um, looking at and considering possible trades right now. In after hours, um, we see that it's holding this level and this little range here. So from 45, 35 to about where the previous day's low was, which is 45, 45. So 45, 35, 45, 35, about a 10 cents difference. Um, you'll see how it does overnight in the pre-market tomorrow. You have this downward channel here that it's been respecting on the bigger time frame. So you could probably presume it's going to try to break out here, but probably fail. And hopefully it will have enough support once again in this buy zone to where it could have a potential bigger breakout because it's been holding support. People are obviously buying here. People are buying here. So you're having a wedge pattern develop and potentially could have a little breakout. Potentially could. Otherwise, it could fail here and then drop in the after hours pre-market, and again like it did in the opening of today's session, it could drop and consider have another support here. You see an order block here around 44.24. So that's if it doesn't hold support, you can see this drop further. I'm just using this order block, but if we were to try to scroll to the left, we can see that there is some area here of potential support at 44.30 about it to 43.90. So that would be possibly the next level um, of support, or 44.60, 44.60 about here, maybe 44.50. So price could drop lower, and you see that it has had previous reaction support areas here. So 44.50 might be the next support level if it drops lower. So, and then from here it looks like 44.30 about. So if it drops lower tomorrow, those are some areas that you might want to consider to look at, because again, it is on that downward channel on the bigger time frame here. I had marked out this channel, and so if it doesn't break out of this channel and hold above it to try to get VWAP around 45.83 or $46 for the 200, and this resistance level at 46.12 around there, it could drop to 45, where there was a pretty strong support area from 45 to 44.95 around this area. If it drops further, then it could go to 44.50 to 44.30 and see what happens. Again, we're not in the prediction market. The upward trend is right here that you see, that I'm showing you right there on the bigger timeline. If it is going to break down, it will break this trend on the bigger timeline. So it could go all the way to these levels before it makes an attempt to break out once again and retest these $50 levels, but it's got various resistance levels to get through before it makes an attempt to break out this very strong resistance area of $51. But that's just an idea. Those are just things to consider if you're going to trade this tomorrow. But again, I just want to emphasize why it's very important for us to really look at strong areas of support and resistance, and trend lines that are being respected, as well as incorporating the moving averages, so we can get a bigger picture of what could possibly happen. So again, we're not into trying to predict and forecast, because the market can do and will do whatever it wants to do. And in light of all the socio-economic, political things that are occurring, it also has influence and a factor in the stock. Today there was some news about potential war with Iran, and I was watching this and trading this, the market took a little shift and it started to basically drop out. So that's just more things to consider to see how the market reacts tomorrow with the news and all these factors that play into what and how we trade. But again, if I haven't already said, We are not into forecasting and predicting, because if people could predict and forecast and had a crystal ball, they'd all be millionaires and billionaires. But it's all the market makers and all the ones with the big money that move the markets. And we're just here to try to capture and catch what we can and make what we can. So hopefully you got value from this video. And if you did, please, I'd appreciate a like, a subscribe, leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Are you bullish on this stock? Are you bearish? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you. And of course, check out my other videos. And until next time, God bless.